The transport plane was already crawling toward the runway when Colonel Claire Bennett's command vehicle slammed through the security gate and parked right in front of the fuselage. She stepped out in full uniform, ignoring the ground crew yelling at her to move, and she locked her eyes on the aircraft window until she found me sitting next to our daughter. Then her voice cut through the emergency ground frequency, so sharp that the cockpit went dead silent. "You two cannot leave me." I looked at 8-year-old Sophie beside me, then at the wedding ring I had pulled off 20 minutes earlier and sealed inside my travel bag's front pocket. I didn't answer Claire. Instead, I reached for my phone and saved the notification that confirmed my family relocation clearance had already been signed off by Installation Command. The pilot killed the engines, and the sudden quiet inside the cabin felt heavier than all the noise before it. Sophie leaned toward the window. "Is Mom going to get in trouble?" I had spent 6 years teaching my daughter never to take pleasure in someone else's punishment even when that person had hurt her. So I said, "Your mother is responsible for her own choices." Outside, 2 security vehicles were racing toward Claire, but she stayed planted in front of the aircraft. Her dark hair was already coming loose from that tight military bun she wore every working day. And I could see her chest rising hard beneath her uniform jacket. She looked nothing like Colonel Bennett, commander of the 47th Air Mobility Support Group. She looked like a woman who had finally discovered that rank could stop an aircraft, but could not order a husband to keep loving her. A security officer approached her carefully, and Claire raised one hand. "I need 5 minutes." The officer shook his head. "You need to clear the runway immediately, ma'am. My husband and daughter are on that aircraft." "I understand." "No, Captain, you don't." I couldn't hear every word through the window, but I knew Claire well enough to read the tension in her shoulders. She had always believed that control was the same thing as certainty. At work, that belief made her decisive. At home, it made her dangerous. She had spent years assuming that because I stayed, I would always stay, because Sophie forgave her, Sophie would always forgive her, because I understood operational pressure. I would always understand one more missed dinner, one more broken promise, one more night when Claire chose Major Ryan Mercer over her own family and called it duty. The aircraft door opened, and a crew chief walked down the aisle. "Mr. Bennett?" I stood. Sophie grabbed my wrist. "Dad, I'm not leaving you." Her fingers loosened, and the crew chief lowered his voice. "Installation Command wants to know whether you're willing to speak with Colonel Bennett before security removes her." That wording mattered, not whether Claire wanted to speak with me, but whether I was willing. For years, nobody on that base had asked the question that way. I looked through the window again. Claire had moved away from the nose of the aircraft, but only because armed security personnel had formed a line between her vehicle and the taxiway. 3 months earlier, I would have gone down immediately. 6 weeks earlier, I might have listened. But that morning, I had already filed for legal separation, withdrawn myself as Claire's emergency administrative representative, transferred Sophie's school and medical records under an approved family relocation, and turned over every relevant message, schedule, and command communication to an inspector general investigator. I had spent too long making emotional decisions in response to Claire's emergencies. I was done. "I'll speak with her," I said, "but my daughter stays on the plane, and the flight does not lose its departure clearance because of us." The crew chief nodded. "I'll pass that along." Sophie looked up at me. "Are we still going?" "Yes." "Promise." I had learned to be careful with promises because Claire had taught Sophie how badly they could hurt. So I crouched beside her seat. "We have authorization to leave. Our bags are loaded. Your school is expecting you next week. Grandma already put the blue blanket in your new room, the one with the stars." "The same one." She studied my face, then nodded. "Okay." I walked down the stairs alone. Claire moved toward me the moment my shoes touched the pavement, but security stopped her. "Ma'am, I'm his wife." The captain did not move. "And this is an active flight line." Claire's jaw tightened. I had seen that expression before briefings, before disciplinary meetings, before she dismantled a bad argument with 3 sentences. It used to impress me. Now it only reminded me how often she brought command authority home. "Ethan." I stopped several yards away. She looked past me toward the aircraft. "Where are you taking Sophie?" "Colorado Springs." "For how long?" "We're relocating." Her face changed, not dramatically. Claire was too trained for dramatic reactions in public, but I saw the moment the word reached her. Relocating, not visiting, not taking a break, not spending the weekend somewhere. Leaving.
You can't do that without telling me. I told you Tuesday. You said you were considering options.
I said I had accepted the engineering position and would relocate with Sophie if the family care agreement was approved.
Claire stared at me. I thought you were angry. I was finished.
The difference hit harder than shouting would have. She took a step forward, and security shifted with her.
Claire stopped.
Take Sophie off the plane.
No. Ethan, no. Her nostrils flared. I am her mother.
And you remain her mother.
Then why are you taking her across the country?
Because you signed the temporary residential consent 14 months ago. For the first time, Claire looked uncertain.
She remembered eventually. I watched it happen.
14 months earlier, just before her extended exercise cycle began, Claire had signed a family care modification granting me primary residential authority if her duty schedule exceeded a specified threshold or if I accepted employment outside the installation area. At the time, she had barely read it. Ryan Mercer had been waiting outside our kitchen in uniform because Claire had insisted they needed to drive back to headquarters together. She signed beside the yellow tab while reading a message from him. I remembered saying, "Claire, read page 6. She had replied, "I trust you."
The irony had aged badly. That form was for deployment contingencies.
It covers relocation related to employment when your documented availability is below the agreed family care threshold.
That's not what I intended.
You signed it. I can revoke it through the proper process. She looked toward the aircraft again.
Not today. No. Then cancel your flight. No. The answer came easily, and that surprised me.
For years, saying no to Claire had required preparation, calculating her schedule, her mood, the operational stakes, Sophie's needs, the probability of an argument. That morning, no was simply a complete sentence. Claire lowered her voice.
Don't do this in front of my people.
I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because even then, with our marriage collapsing beside an aircraft, she was thinking about command perception. Your people are here because you drove onto a restricted movement area.
I panicked. I know.
I heard from Lieutenant Park that Sophie had been withdrawn from school.
I called the house. You were gone. I called you 12 times. My phone was on silent during security processing. I thought you had taken her without permission.
You could have called family services. I called the operations desk, and then you ordered the gate opened. Her eyes flickered. That was the first piece of trouble she could not talk around. The security captain glanced at her, and Claire noticed.
I used my installation access. You used your position. I was trying to stop my family from disappearing. We weren't disappearing. I pulled a folded document from my jacket. Your office received the relocation notice 2 days ago.
She stared at the copy. Her executive officer's acknowledgement signature sat at the bottom.
Claire looked at it for several seconds. I never saw this.
Then you should ask why documents involving your daughter aren't reaching you.
I already knew the answer.
Ryan Mercer had intercepted it, not illegally, not exactly. Claire had delegated personal scheduling and non-operational correspondence to him months earlier because she trusted him more than anyone on her staff. That decision had become one of many small cracks in our marriage. At first, Ryan was just efficient. He remembered Claire's briefing materials, kept coffee in her office, knew which political sensitivities mattered before meetings, laughed at her driest jokes, and volunteered for every late shift. I had respected him. Then he started making decisions about my family. It happened gradually, a rescheduled anniversary reservation because Claire needed preparation time, a cancelled parent-teacher conference because Ryan told her a rehearsal was mandatory when it was not. A holiday leave request Claire withdrew because Ryan claimed the deputy commander expected senior staff to remain local. I discovered later that the deputy commander had approved leave for every other section chief. Claire always had an explanation. Ryan was cautious, Ryan was loyal, Ryan understood the burden of command. I was told I was being insecure. That word became Claire's favorite way to avoid looking closely at what I was actually saying. I did not accuse her of sleeping with him. I had no evidence of an affair. What I accused her of was worse in some ways. She gave him authority over parts of our marriage that belonged to us, and she kept choosing his judgment over mine. Claire folded the relocation notice. You should have handed this directly to me. I tried Wednesday night. She blinked, then remembered another scene. I had waited in her office lobby for 42 minutes. Ryan had emerged from the secured corridor carrying Claire's tablet and told me she was in a classified planning session.
I had asked him to give her the envelope. He had looked at the label, family relocation notice, and then he smiled, not mockingly, almost sympathetically. I'll make sure she gets it. The next morning, Claire called and asked why I had not brought Sophie's field trip authorization to her office. She never mentioned the envelope. I had known then, not everything, but enough. I sent a certified electronic copy through administrative channels before lunch, and that acknowledgement was the paper in Claire's hand. You gave it to Ryan? Yes. He never gave it to me. He signed the administrative receipt. Claire looked toward the line of officers behind security. Her humiliation was beginning to turn into anger, not at me, not entirely. Get Sophie off the plane. No. I need to talk to her. You can call her after we arrive. She thinks I'm abandoning her. I held Claire's eyes. She thinks that because you kept abandoning her. That broke her composure. I never abandoned my daughter. Last month, she waited in the pediatric clinic for 3 hours because you promised to attend the consult. There was a readiness issue. Ryan asked you to sit in on a briefing that you were not required to attend. You don't understand what was happening. I read the duty log. Claire's face hardened. Why were you reading my unit logs? Because the clinic asked me whether the emergency was documented for the family support waiver. I had not gone looking for evidence had started finding me. That was one of the strangest parts of finally stopping my excuses for Claire. Once I quit translating every absence into duty and every dismissal into stress, the facts became simple. She had choices. She kept making them. 2 years earlier, I had been proud of being the flexible one. My work allowed it. I was a civilian aerospace systems engineer assigned through the Defense Flight Safety Laboratory, and most of my projects could be managed between testing windows. I designed diagnostic software for aging transport aircraft. The work was technical, quiet, and rarely visible to anyone outside maintenance and safety commands. Claire commanded people, I solved failures in machines. Our jobs had different forms of urgency. When Sophie was born, I shifted to a flexible schedule because Claire's career path was accelerating. I never regretted caring for our daughter. The mistake was believing sacrifice remained healthy after it became expected. Claire stopped asking whether I could rearrange my work, she informed me. She stopped apologizing for missed commitments, she explained why they had been necessary. Eventually, Ryan started explaining for her. That was when something inside our marriage began to rot. The security captain approached us. Colonel Bennett, installation commander, requests your immediate presence. Claire did not look away from me. Tell him I'll be there in 10 minutes. The captain's expression barely changed. Ma'am, it wasn't a request. I watched the words land. Claire had spent her career understanding command language, she knew exactly what had just happened. Her authority had ended at the edge of someone else's. She looked at me again. I'll come to Colorado tonight. That's your decision. We'll talk. I'll listen if it concerns Sophie. What about us? I let several seconds pass. Claire's eyes searched mine. That was the first time she seemed afraid, not angry, not offended, afraid. I filed for separation this morning. Her face emptied. You what? The petition was submitted at 0830. No. Claire, no. She stepped toward me again, and security blocked her. I didn't agree to a separation. I almost said something cruel. I almost told her she had not asked my agreement when she gave our anniversary weekend to Ryan's promotion package, or when she told Sophie that Daddy was better at family things after missing Sophie's school performance, or when she let Ryan tell me I was distracting her from command. But I had learned that the cleanest boundaries usually required fewer words. You don't have to agree. The aircraft engines began to turn again. Claire heard them, and her panic returned. Ethan, don't get on that plane. I walked backward 1 step. Ethan, clear the runway. Claire, I love you. I stopped. For 6 years, those words had been enough to reset every argument. She would say them quietly after midnight. And I would believe the intention mattered more than the pattern. Then I would pack Sophie's lunch the next morning while Claire left before sunrise with Ryan waiting at the curb. I had finally learned that love could be real and still be insufficient. I believe you think you do, I said. Her eyes filled. I had seen Claire receive casualty notifications without losing control, brief generals after 30 hours without sleep, remain steady while an aircraft burned 200 yards from a hangar. But that sentence almost folded her. I turned away. Ethan. I kept walking. She called my name again,
but I climbed the aircraft stairs. By the time I sat beside Sophie, security had escorted Claire away from the movement area.
Sophie watched through the window. Did Mom say sorry? Not yet. Is she mad? Probably. At us? No.
I did not know if that was true, but there are truths children should not have to carry before adults have finished sorting them. The aircraft rolled forward again. This time, nobody stopped it. As the wheels left the ground, Sophie pressed her forehead to the window. I looked down at the base where I had spent 7 years building a life around Claire's career. The hangars became rectangles. The roads became thin gray lines, and the house where we had argued the night before disappeared somewhere beneath the wing. I felt no triumph, only relief. And beneath that relief was a memory from 11 weeks earlier.
When I first understood that my marriage was not dying from one dramatic betrayal, it was dying from repetition.
That morning had started with pancakes. Sophie was practicing multiplication tables at the kitchen island. Claire was already in uniform.
She had promised to drive Sophie to school because I had an early systems review at the flight laboratory.
It was a small promise, that was the point. Claire had missed larger things, but we were trying to rebuild trust through small ones. I had even put the school bag beside her briefcase. At 0648, Ryan called. Claire answered immediately, and I watched her face change into that focused expression she used at work.
What happened? She listened. Who else knows? Another pause. I'll be there. I set down my coffee. Claire.
She raised one finger, that finger told me to wait in my own kitchen.
She ended the call.
There's an issue with the readiness presentation.
What issue? Ryan says the fuel consumption figures don't reconcile. Is it operationally urgent? It affects today's command update. You promised Sophie.
Sophie had gone quiet. Claire looked toward her.
I know, sweetheart.
Sophie stared at her plate.
So you're not taking me? Claire's expression softened. I'll make it up to you.
Sophie shrugged. That shrug hurt more than tears would have. Children cry while they still expect adults to fix things. The shrug meant she had adjusted.
Ryan can correct a spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet. What is it? A readiness presentation. Then your deputy can handle it.
Claire's eyes sharpened.
Don't tell me how to run my group. I am telling you how to keep a promise to your daughter. You don't understand the visibility on this briefing. Then explain it. I don't have time.
She picked up her briefcase, and I stepped toward the counter.
Claire. She stopped. If you walk out now, don't tell Sophie this was unavoidable.
Her voice turned cold.
That is unfair. No. Unavoidable means you had no choice.
You have choices. You just don't like how some of them affect your career.
Ryan's SUV pulled into the driveway. He was early, he was always early.
Claire saw it through the window, then looked at me.
We'll talk tonight.
You said that yesterday.
I mean it.
She kissed Sophie's hair. Sophie did not look up.
Then Claire left.
I drove Sophie to school, and I joined my systems review 12 minutes late.
My supervisor, Dr. Nolan Pierce, did not complain. He simply moved my presentation slot afterward.
He closed the conference room door. You've rescheduled 6 morning sessions in 2 months.
I know your work is still excellent. I know you don't sound proud of that.
I leaned back in my chair. Nolan was 63, a former Air Force flight test engineer, the sort of man who never raised his voice because he had spent decades around people who listened.
He studied me. Is everything okay at home? I gave the answer I had given everyone. Claire's command schedule is intense. That isn't what I asked.
I looked at the table. He waited. Finally, I said, I'm carrying more family responsibility than I expected.
Can you sustain it? Yes. That wasn't the question either. I almost smiled. No. Nolan nodded, then slid a folder toward me. Colorado Springs wants someone to lead the fleet integrity modernization team.
I stared at him.
The position had been discussed for months. It would oversee integration of our diagnostic platform across several aging transport fleets.
It was not a secret promotion, it was simply a better job, one I had repeatedly refused to pursue because Claire's command assignment tied us to the base.
I told you I couldn't relocate. You told me that last year. Nothing has changed. Nolan's eyes said otherwise. I am not telling you to leave your wife, Ethan.
I'm telling you that the laboratory has built your schedule around her career for almost 4 years.
I looked up. That's not fair. It is accurate. He opened the folder.
Your software caught the actuator fatigue signature on aircraft A12.
That was a team effort. Your model caught it. Maintenance confirmed it. After your model found it. He tapped the folder.
You have spent years making yourself smaller because your family needed flexibility.
There is nothing wrong with that if it remains a choice.
The sentence stayed with me, if it remains a choice. I took the folder home, and I did not hide it. I left it on the kitchen table.
Claire returned at 22:17.
Sophie was asleep, I was still working.
Claire removed her boots by the door. Long day. I looked at the clock. You missed dinner. I texted at 8:30. Things escalated. Did the readiness numbers get fixed?
She looked surprised.
Yes. Who fixed them? Ryan. Then why did you need to be there? Claire went still. Ethan, I am asking.
The commander wanted leadership present.
Did he specifically ask for you? Not in those words. What words did he use?
She took off her jacket.
This is becoming ridiculous. Did he ask for you? No. Did your deputy attend? Yes. Could Ryan have corrected the numbers without you? Technically. I nodded. So you chose to go.
Claire folded her jacket over a chair.
What do you want from me? Accuracy. What does that mean? I want you to stop telling Sophie duty forced you to break promises when it didn't.
Her expression closed.
You have no idea what command requires.
I know it apparently required you to miss her conference, her recital, 2 medical appointments, Christmas breakfast, my mother's surgery, and 4 weekends you requested off.
Claire stared at me. You keep a list now? No, I remember my life.
She looked away, then she saw the folder.
What's that, job offer?
She opened it, and I watched her scan the first page.
Colorado. Yes. No. The speed of the answer shocked me. You didn't even read it. We can't move. You can't move. We are married. Correct. My command tour has 18 months remaining. I know. Sophie is enrolled here. She can transfer.
Claire stared at me as though I had proposed something absurd.
You take her away from me. I haven't accepted anything. Then decline it. I studied her. Would you decline a promotion if it required relocation? That's different. Why? Because my career has a structured progression. So does mine. It's not the same.
There it was, not cruelty, not even contempt, something more ordinary and somehow more destructive. She genuinely believed my work could bend because it always had. I had trained her to believe that every time I said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it," every time I canceled a test window because Sophie was sick, every time I turned down travel because Claire had an exercise, every time I assured her I was happy to make it work, I had built the expectation with my own hands.
Why isn't it the same? I asked. Claire sighed. Ethan, I'm tired. Answer the question. Your work is important, but you have more flexibility. Because I created flexibility which has worked for our family. For your career. For our family. Then why does our family keep getting whatever is left? She froze. I continued before I lost my nerve. Claire, I don't need you to quit. I don't need you to sacrifice command. I need you to stop pretending you aren't choosing. I am choosing this family every day. Then choose us sometimes when it costs you something. Her eyes flashed. You think none of this costs me? I think the cost keeps landing on me and Sophie.
She walked away, conversation over. That was Claire's pattern. When words moved beyond territory she controlled, she would retreat, work harder, come back calmer, and act as though time had solved the issue. 2 days later, the job folder appeared on my desk upstairs. Decline had been written across the sticky note, not in my handwriting. I carried it downstairs. Claire was pouring coffee. Did you do this? She looked at the note. I thought we'd settled it. We didn't. You know my position. Your position, you know what I mean. No. Tell me. She set down the cup. This family cannot relocate right now. So you declined the opportunity for now. For 18 months. Yes. And when your next assignment comes, we'll discuss it. I laughed once, not because anything was funny. Claire's face hardened. Why are you doing that? Because we have been discussing my turn for 4 years. She crossed her arms. Your turn?
To have my career treated as fixed instead of optional. Ethan, nobody thinks you're optional. Ryan does. The name changed the room. Claire's expression cooled instantly. This is about him again. It becomes about him when he is the person you choose instead of us. Ryan is my aide. He is a major and your executive operations officer. Exactly. He cancelled our anniversary dinner. He adjusted my calendar. He told Sophie's school you would not attend the family conference. I asked him to handle scheduling. He told me not to come to your office because I was affecting your concentration. Claire stared. When? Last Tuesday. I don't believe that. I took out my phone. I had saved the message. Ryan, Colonel Bennett has a high visibility week. Personal visits are becoming disruptive. Please coordinate through me unless it's urgent. Claire read it, and her mouth tightened. He was out of line. Yes. I'll address it. You said that last time. What last time? When he moved my name off the spouse reception list. That was an administrative mistake. He put himself beside you at the head table because he was presenting the Readiness Award and you told me I was making it weird. Claire looked down at the phone. I could see the defensiveness building, not because Ryan's behavior was defensible, but because admitting he was crossing boundaries meant admitting I had been right. Claire hated being wrong, not professionally. At work, she corrected mistakes quickly. At home, being wrong threatened something deeper. Her self-image, the belief that she was a good officer, good mother, good wife who simply had an unusually demanding job. If Ryan had manipulated her choices, she had to ask why she let him. If I had been neglected, she had to ask why she kept dismissing me. So she chose the easier answer. You dislike him. I distrust him. Because he's close to me. Because he keeps interfering with my marriage. He's loyal to you. That's his job. No, his job is to support your command, not manage your husband. Claire picked up her coffee. I'll speak with him. I watched her walk away. Claire. She stopped. If this happens again, I won't argue about it. She glanced back. What does that mean? It means I'll make decisions without waiting for you to understand why. She looked almost offended. Is that a threat? No. I remember the silence after that. It was the first time I recognized how different a boundary sounded from an ultimatum. An ultimatum tries to control someone else's choice, a boundary explains what you will do with your own. Claire did not understand the distinction yet, neither did I fully, but I would. Ryan apologized the next day, technically. He caught me outside the laboratory. Ethan. I turned. He wore his uniform perfectly. Ryan was 36, polished, intelligent, ambitious without looking hungry. People liked him, that mattered. Manipulative men are easier to recognize when they act like villains. Ryan rarely did. He sounded reasonable. I owe you an apology. For which part? His smile tightened. The message. You'll need to narrow it down. He slipped his hands behind his back. I overstepped. Yes. Colonel Bennett depends on me to protect your bandwidth. I'm not bandwidth. I know. Do you? His jaw moved. I wasn't trying to disrespect your marriage. You keep making choices that require you to say that. He studied me, then his tone changed slightly. I respect what you do for her. I already disliked the sentence. He continued, most officers at her level need a spouse who understands that command comes first sometimes. Claire is exceptional. I heard the familiarity, not Colonel Bennett, Claire. He noticed my reaction. We work closely. I know. There's nothing inappropriate. I didn't accuse you of sleeping with her. His confidence flickered. Good. I accused you of learning that she rewards anyone who makes her feel indispensable. The smile disappeared. You think that's what I'm doing? I think you want something. I want this group to succeed. And after that? He stared at me. I waited. Ryan finally smiled again. You're suspicious. You're ambitious. Is that a crime? No. But you think I'm using her? I think you discovered that if you create a crisis, Claire feels valuable solving it. His eyes sharpened. That hit. I had not planned to say it, but once I did. Several memories aligned, last-minute briefing corrections, late-night staffing questions, weekend emergencies that somehow always required Claire personally. Ryan never lied outright, he framed, he escalated, he made everything feel slightly more urgent than it was.
And Claire, who had built her identity around competence, responded exactly as he knew she would. Careful, Ryan said, soft, almost friendly.
I smiled. There you are. What? The part you usually hide.
He stepped closer. You have no idea what pressure she's under.
I know more than you think. You see the tired woman who comes home.
And you see the colonel whose recommendation can make your career.
His face went still, we both understood each other. Then I did not have proof of misconduct, not yet. But I no longer thought the problem was romantic jealousy.
Ryan wanted promotion, Claire controlled access, evaluations, mission visibility, recommendation channels. He did not need to seduce her, he only needed to become essential. My marriage was collateral damage.
He walked away without another word.
That evening, I began saving records, not secret files, not classified information, my own messages, our shared calendar changes.
School notices, medical appointment confirmations, Claire's cancelled leave periods, Ryan's communications to me. I downloaded the family care agreement, I requested copies of my employment accommodations from the laboratory.
I kept the Colorado offer open. I did not do any of it to punish Claire, at least, that is what I told myself. Mostly I wanted to know whether I was imagining the pattern. Facts are useful when your emotions have been dismissed for long enough that you begin doubting your own memory.
The facts were worse than my feelings.
Over 12 months, Claire had cancelled or missed 26 family commitments. 17 correlated with events Ryan had placed on her calendar. Of those 17, 8 were not mandatory. 5 involved tasks he was authorized to handle himself, 3 occurred while another qualified officer was already present.
One was Sophie's birthday, that one still made my hands shake.
Claire had left the party because Ryan called about a personnel roster discrepancy.
She returned at 11:40 p.m. Sophie was asleep on the couch wearing the plastic crown from the party.
Claire stood over her and cried. I held Claire in the kitchen and told her Sophie would understand. I had been protecting Claire from the consequences of Claire, that realization was difficult to forgive in myself.
The situation became worse 3 weeks later.
Sophie had been having recurrent abdominal pain, nothing alarming at first. But the pediatrician wanted imaging and a specialist consultation. Claire insisted she would attend. I blocked the whole morning. She told Sophie, and Sophie looked at me before she smiled. She was checking whether I believed it.
That nearly broke me. The appointment was at 0900. At 0835, Claire texted, running 10 minutes late. At 0854, Ryan needs me for pre-brief. Go in without me. I'll meet you there.
At 0938, still here.
I'm sorry. At 1106, how did it go? I did not answer immediately.
The specialist had found nothing dangerous, thankfully, dietary inflammation, manageable, but Sophie cried in the parking lot. Not because of the diagnosis, because her mother had promised. She always picks work. I knelt beside her.
Your mom loves you. Then why doesn't she come? I opened my mouth, nothing came out.
Every answer I had used before sounded insulting now. She's busy, she's responsible for many people, her job matters, sometimes emergencies happen. Sophie knew all of that, she was 8, not stupid. She had also learned the thing I had been refusing to learn, a pattern is not an emergency.
That afternoon, I called Claire's office. Ryan answered. Colonel Bennett's office. It's Ethan. She's in a closed session. With whom? A pause. Excuse me.
The pediatric clinic needs a duty verification because she missed an appointment under our family support plan.
Was the session mandatory? His tone cooled. That's not really your concern.
It becomes my concern when my daughter's care is affected.
She is commanding an operational unit. Was it mandatory? She was needed. That isn't what I asked. Ryan exhaled.
She made a command decision.
Thank you.
I hung up. Then I contacted administrative services. I did not ask for classified details. I asked whether Claire had been assigned to an official mandatory event during that period.
The answer arrived the next morning. No mandatory command event recorded. I saved it.
That night, Claire returned after 9 o'clock and found me sitting at the kitchen table with the Colorado contract. This time it was signed.
She stopped. What is that? I accepted the position.
Her face changed.
No. Yes.
You said we'd discuss it.
We did.
This is not a discussion.
Neither was writing decline across my offer.
Claire put her bag down slowly.
When would you start?
6 weeks.
She stared. And Sophie? Coming with me? No. Our family care agreement allows it. I'll change the agreement. You can request a review. Ethan, stop talking to me like I'm one of your administrators. Then stop talking to me like I'm one of your subordinates.
The room went silent. Claire's face went pale. I had never said that before.
Maybe I should have. She pulled out a chair. Sit down. I'm already sitting. Her mouth tightened. She sat opposite me. Why are you doing this? I told you. Because I missed the doctor? No. Because of Ryan. Partly. I dealt with his message. You told him to be more respectful. What else did you want?
I wanted you to recognize the actual problem, which is he is creating unnecessary dependency and you reward it.
Claire leaned back. That is a serious accusation. It is an observation. You think my executive officer is manufacturing work? I think he inflates urgency. Based on what?
The same morning you missed Sophie's appointment, he kept you for a pre-brief that had already been completed by Captain Lewis.
Her eyes narrowed. How do you know that administrative record? You went through my unit. I verified whether your absence met the family care definition. She stood. You had no right.
I had every right to verify why my daughter was left waiting for her mother.
Do you understand how this looks? To whom? My people.
I don't care how it looks to your people.
You should.
That's the problem, Claire. You care more about how our marriage looks to your unit than how it feels inside our house.
She pressed both hands to the table. Do you think command is easy? No. Do you think I enjoy missing things? No. Then why are you treating me like some selfish monster? I don't think you're a monster. You're taking my daughter away. I'm taking a job across the country. Yes, with Sophie, because I am her primary residential parent under the agreement you signed.
I signed it because you told me it was routine. I told you to read page 6. She froze, memory again. The kitchen, Ryan waiting outside, her phone buzzing.
I trusted you, she said. I never hid what it said. You knew I wouldn't agree to this. I didn't know I would ever use it. Yet here we are. Here we are. She walked away from the table, then turned back. Do you want a divorce? I answered too slowly. Claire saw it. Her eyes widened. Ethan, I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the truth. Are you seeing someone? No. Is there someone in Colorado? No. Then what happened to us? I almost asked if she was serious instead. I opened the folder beside me and pulled out a printed calendar. What is that? Our last year. I pushed it across the table. Cancelled events were marked. Claire stared. This is insane. Maybe. You catalogued our marriage. I catalogued the promises you broke. Her eyes moved down the pages. This makes everything look worse than it was.
No, it makes it countable.
I had reasons for all of these. I know. She pointed to one.
This was the emergency readiness drill, mandatory.
I marked it. Another.
This was the wing inspection, mandatory. Another, General Hart called the staff meeting, mandatory.
She stopped.
The other entries had different markings: optional, delegable, Ryan requested, personal choice.
Claire looked at me. What is this? That's the part we need to talk about. You don't get to classify my duties. I didn't, your own records did. Those records don't show context. Then give me context. She flipped pages. I watched her find Sophie's birthday. She went still.
Then our anniversary, my mother's surgery, the pediatric appointment, the school conference, Christmas breakfast.
Claire closed the folder. This is cruel. The calendar is cruel? You are using every failure I've had as a weapon.
No, I'm using it to stop you from telling me there hasn't been a pattern.
She looked away. I lowered my voice.
Claire, I spent years believing your explanation because I love you, but loving you doesn't require me to deny what is happening.
She swallowed. I can do better.
I wanted to believe her, that was the dangerous part. Despite everything, I loved her, not the colonel, not the uniform, not the reputation. Claire, the woman who once drove 4 hours through a snowstorm because my father had a heart attack. The woman who slept on the floor beside Sophie's crib when her daughter had pneumonia. The woman who used to leave handwritten notes in my toolbox because she knew I found them after long test shifts. She had not vanished, she had become buried beneath ambition, habit, and the intoxicating certainty of being needed. "I need more than better," I said.
"What does that mean?" "Boundaries with Ryan." Her face tightened immediately, that reaction told me too much. "What boundaries?" "He stops handling personal communication." "Fine. He doesn't contact you about non-emergency work during protected family time unless the designated duty officer confirms it's necessary." "That's not realistic." "Then family time isn't protected. Command doesn't work on a timer."
"Neither does parenting." She rubbed her forehead.
"What else?" "You attend counseling with me."
Claire's jaw clenched.
"I don't have time for weekly counseling."
"You have time for 4-hour planning dinners. Those are work."
"Then find 1 hour." She said nothing.
"And you read the review I prepared regarding Ryan's calendar interventions." Her eyes sharpened.
"You prepared a review of my officer, of his communications involving me and Sophie?"
"Ethan, I am not asking to evaluate his military performance."
"Good. I'm asking you to stop letting him control access to my wife." "He doesn't."
He screened the relocation notice.
"He made a mistake."
"He has made a lot of mistakes that benefit him."
Claire stood. "We are not doing this tonight."
I almost fell back into the old pattern, let her leave, wait until she was calmer, try again later.
"Instead," I said, "then I'm proceeding with Colorado."
She stopped at the doorway.
"You'd break this family over an argument?" "No." I looked at the signed contract. "I'm moving because this family has been broken for a while, and I finally stopped pretending one more conversation would fix it."
She slept in the guest room.
The next morning, Ryan came to our house. That was unusual.
Claire had already left for an early meeting. I was packing Sophie's lunch when the doorbell rang.
Ryan stood outside without his uniform jacket. "I need to talk to you." "No."
He looked surprised.
"This concerns Claire."
"Then talk to Claire. She told me about Colorado." I stared at him. That conversation had happened less than 10 hours earlier. Claire had told him before breakfast.
Something inside me went quiet. "Leave. Ethan, you're making a mistake." "My house." "I'm trying to help." "You have 10 seconds.
He stepped closer.
"If you take Sophie, you could damage Claire's command prospects." I laughed. It came out harsher than I expected.
"There it is."
"What?"
"Not her marriage, not her daughter, her command prospects."
"That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant."
He lowered his voice.
"You don't understand the political environment."
"I don't care."
"A custody conflict involving a sitting group commander will attract attention." "I'm not creating a custody conflict."
"You're relocating her child under an agreement. That agreement can be challenged. Then challenge it through legal channels."
Ryan's face changed. "You really think this is smart?"
"I think you're standing on my porch talking about my daughter as a career risk."
He glanced toward the street.
"I care about Claire, I know more than you seem to right now."
That sentence made everything very clear.
I stepped outside and closed the door behind me so Sophie would not hear.
"Say that again." He hesitated.
I took out my phone, not secretly, I held it where he could see.
"I'm recording this conversation on my property. If you continue, you consent." Our state allowed one-party recording, but I wanted no ambiguity. Ryan looked at the phone. "You think you're clever?" "No.
I think I spent too long having conversations nobody believes happened."
"You want to destroy her?" "I want you away from my family."
"I am part of her professional life."
"Then stay there." "She needs me."
"No."
I shook my head.
"You need her to need you." His expression hardened completely. "You're jealous because she respects me. She respected me before you taught her that I was an obstacle."
"I didn't have to teach her anything."
The words came too fast. Ryan knew it, I knew it. He tried to recover.
"She's frustrated. Ethan, she talks about you."
"What?" He smiled faintly.
"You keep counting hours. Always asking for more. Always making her feel guilty." My hand tightened around the phone, not because I was angry at him,
but because Claire had said those things to him, maybe in frustration, maybe after arguments. But she had given him access to the most vulnerable parts of our marriage.
"Anything else?" Ryan realized I was not reacting the way he wanted.
"She says you don't understand what it takes to succeed at her level."
"Anything else?" She said sometimes she feels like she has two commands, one at work and one at home. That hurt. I did not show him. Instead, I asked, "Why are you telling me this?"
Because you're threatening her future.
No. I stopped the recording. I'm ending a conversation.
I opened the door. Ryan remained on the porch. If you leave, don't expect her to chase you.
I looked at him. You think that's what I want? He had no answer.
I went inside, and I saved the recording in 3 places. That was the first piece of evidence I intentionally preserved because I knew it might matter later, not evidence of an affair. Evidence that Claire's subordinate had inserted himself into a family dispute while linking my parenting decisions to Claire's command career. I sent the file to my attorney, then I went to work at 10:40.
Claire called. What did you say to Ryan?
I leaned back in my chair.
What did he tell you?
That you threatened him. I recorded the conversation.
Silence. You recorded my officer.
I recorded a man who came to my home uninvited.
What did you say?
I told him to stay out of our family.
He was trying to help.
I closed my eyes. That sentence hurt more than anything Ryan had said. He came to our home to tell me relocating Sophie would damage your career.
Claire was quiet. He shouldn't have done that. No. But you can't bait him.
I informed him he was being recorded.
Another silence. Ethan, this is getting out of control.
For once, I agree. I'll tell Ryan to stay away from the house.
Good. Can we talk tonight?
I have counseling at 6 o'clock.
She hesitated. Our counseling? The appointment? You said you didn't have time. I have a staff dinner then. No, Ethan.
Claire, you are allowed to choose the dinner.
Don't do that.
Do what?
Make every decision a test. I'm not testing you anymore.
I meant it. Tests are for people hoping someone will pass. I was gathering information for a decision.
Claire attended the staff dinner. I attended counseling alone. The therapist asked why Claire was absent. Work emergency? No. Did she know about the appointment?
Yes. The therapist wrote something down. I hated that, not because it was unfair, but because it made my marriage look exactly like what it had become. Over the next 4 weeks, Claire tried. That much is true. She came home for dinner 3 times, she attended Sophie's science fair, she removed Ryan from personal scheduling, she even booked a counseling session. For a while, I wondered whether the shock of Colorado had reached her. Then Ryan changed tactics. Instead of contacting Claire personally, he started routing requests through official channels.
Everything became legitimate on paper. Extra planning meetings, optional rehearsals labeled strongly recommended, command visits where Claire's attendance was customary but not required.
The result was the same. She kept going. At counseling, I said, you don't have to attend all of these.
Claire crossed her arms. You don't understand the expectations.
Our therapist asked, has anyone explicitly stated these are required?
Claire hesitated. No. Then why attend?
Because leaders show up.
I said, fathers and mothers show up too. Claire looked at me.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. You turn everything into a moral judgment.
No, I'm asking where the line is. What line?
The point where being Colonel Bennett stops consuming Claire Bennett.
Her eyes flashed. They are the same person. Then maybe that's our answer. She went silent.
The therapist leaned forward.
Ethan, what do you mean?
I mean I married Claire, not the 47th group.
Claire's face changed.
I continued, if every family request is evaluated against what benefits command, there is no marriage, there is only support staff.
Claire stood. I'm not doing this.
The therapist said her name, but Claire grabbed her bag. I have to be back at headquarters.
She left.
I remained in the room. The therapist did not say anything for almost a minute.
Finally, I asked, was I unfair? Do you think you were? I don't know anymore. She nodded.
Then perhaps the question isn't whether your feelings are perfectly fair, perhaps the question is what conditions would allow you to remain in the marriage without abandoning yourself.
I had no answer.
2 days later, I received one, not from Claire, from the base school liaison. Mr. Bennett, I wanted to confirm Sophie's withdrawal timeline.
I was in my laboratory. What withdrawal?
For your Colorado relocation.
I haven't submitted one yet.
There was a pause.
We received an inquiry from Colonel Bennett's office. My stomach tightened. What inquiry? Someone. Requested clarification on whether Sophie's enrollment could be administratively held pending parental review. I can't release the requester without authorization. Was it Colonel Bennett?
The request came from her office.
Please email me the procedural notice.
I called Claire immediately. She answered on the third ring.
I'm in a meeting. Did you try to block Sophie's school withdrawal? Silence. What? Your office contacted the school liaison? I didn't. Then someone used your office.
Her tone changed.
Hold on.
I heard a door close.
What exactly happened?
I explained, and Claire swore under her breath.
I didn't authorize that. Who can communicate from your office? Several people. Ryan. Another pause. Yes.
I said nothing. Claire exhaled.
I'll handle it. How? Ethan, how? I'll find out what happened. Good. An hour later, she called back, her voice was tight. Ryan made the inquiry. Why?
He says he was trying to understand the administrative consequences.
For whom?
He thought I needed options.
Did you ask for options? No. Did he identify himself as acting on your behalf? Silence. Claire. Yes.
I closed my eyes.
What are you going to do? I'm removing him from family-related administrative matters.
He was already removed.
I mean formally and professionally. That's separate. No, it isn't anymore.
Her voice hardened.
Do not tell me how to discipline my officer. I am telling you that your officer used your office to interfere with my daughter's school transfer. He made an inquiry using your authority.
He did not issue an order. He didn't need to. The school liaison thought the request came from Colonel Bennett.
Claire did not answer. I lowered my voice.
That is the whole problem. He borrows your authority, and every time I point it out, you minimize it.
I'm not minimizing it. Then report it. Silence. There it was, the line.
Claire could correct Ryan privately, scold him, move tasks away from him, but formal reporting would create a record. A record could affect his promotion recommendation. It could also reflect on her judgment.
You won't, I said. I need facts first. You have them. I need context. He used your office without authorization. I'm aware. Then report it. Ethan, military discipline is not a tool for our marital conflict. Correct. Then stop demanding I use it because you're angry.
I felt something inside me settle, not break, settle.
I'm not angry anymore.
Her voice softened slightly.
What does that mean? It means I'm done asking. I ended the call.
That afternoon, I submitted a formal complaint through the Installation Inspector General. I attached only relevant evidence.
The school inquiry, Ryan's porch recording, his prior message restricting my access to Claire's office, the relocation notice receipt.
I described a pattern of a subordinate using the commander's office to influence family administrative decisions outside his authority. I did not accuse Claire of an affair. I did not accuse Ryan of trying to steal my wife. I did not speculate.
Facts are stronger when you stop decorating them.
The investigator, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Vale, interviewed me 2 days later.
He was direct. Do you believe Colonel Bennett ordered Major Mercer to interfere with your relocation? No. Do you believe she knew he was doing it? Not initially. Do you believe she benefited from it? That's not for me to decide. He looked up. Good answer. It's the true answer. Why file now?
Because this moved from my marriage into my daughter's administrative rights.
He nodded. Do you have any additional records? Yes. I handed him a folder.
These are personal communications involving Major Mercer, no classified material. Vale read silently. At one point, his eyebrows lifted. He looked at the line where Ryan had written that personal visits were becoming disruptive.
Did Colonel Bennett authorize this? She told me she didn't. Did she correct him?
She said she did.
Documentation? None.
Vale closed the folder.
We'll verify. That was the moment the situation became larger than us.
I did not feel good about it. I knew Claire's career could be affected. But I also knew protecting her career had become the excuse everyone used to tolerate behavior that should have been addressed earlier, including me. That evening, Claire came home before Sophie was asleep. She stood in the living room holding a printed notice. You filed an IG complaint.
Yes. You didn't tell me. I didn't need your permission. You could have warned me. Would it have changed anything? I would have handled Ryan. You had chances. Her face tightened. They're interviewing my staff.
Then your staff should tell the truth.
Do you understand what this does to command climate? I understand what Ryan did to our family. This is not about our family anymore. I know.
She stared at me, then very quietly she said, "You did this to me."
I stood. No.
The certainty in my voice surprised both of us.
I reported what happened. Ryan made the choices. You made yours. You think you're completely innocent? No. She blinked.
I stayed quiet too long.
I covered for your absences.
I told Sophie not to be upset.
I rearranged my career until you forgot rearranging cost me anything. I helped build this.
Claire's anger faltered. I continued, "But I'm not helping anymore."
She looked down. You really are leaving?
Yes. Her eyes lifted.
Even if I fix this?
You should fix it because it's right.
What about us?
I don't know whether there's an us left to fix. She sat on the couch. For once, she did not argue. A minute later, Sophie came down the stairs carrying a stuffed fox. She saw Claire.
Mom!
Claire opened her arms, and Sophie ran into them. I watched Claire hold our daughter as though trying to memorize the exact weight of her. That was when my anger became grief, because Claire loved Sophie completely. I never doubted it. People like simple stories: bad wife, good husband, manipulative officer, incompetent commander. Reality was harder. Claire was a loving mother who kept making choices that taught her daughter she was second. She was a capable commander who failed to control a subordinate because his dependence made her feel effective. She loved me while repeatedly treating my life as the flexible part of hers. Love did not erase consequence. That night, Sophie fell asleep against Claire. I carried her upstairs, and Claire followed. We tucked her in together for a moment. We moved the way we always had. Claire adjusted the blanket, I turned off the lamp, and we stood on opposite sides of the bed. Then Sophie whispered in her sleep, "Mom came." Claire closed her eyes, and I left the room. 3 days later, preliminary findings confirmed that Ryan had used Claire's office designation in communications he was not authorized to make. The school inquiry was not the only incident. Investigators found he had contacted family services twice about relocation procedures and had also asked housing management whether I could retain occupancy if Claire remained assigned to the installation. He framed the requests as command family readiness planning. None had been authorized. Worse, Ryan had accessed Claire's personal calendar after she removed him from family scheduling. His permissions had not been revoked in the system, so he continued monitoring our appointments. That explained how he knew about counseling. The investigators found a message from Ryan to another officer: "Bennett is distracted by home issues again. If I can keep the domestic side contained until the readiness evaluation, we'll be fine." Contained. I read that sentence during my second interview. My hands went cold. Vale watched me. "You all right?" "Yes." "You sure?" "No." That was the first time I answered honestly. I looked at the message again. Did Claire see this? Not before today. What happens now? I'm not discussing command actions beyond what you're authorized to know. I nodded. Understood. Before I left, Vale said, "Mr. Bennett, you did the right thing reporting this." I almost rejected the reassurance. Then I thought about Sophie's school, about the counselor, about Ryan standing on my porch. "Thank you." Claire did not come home that night. She texted, "Major Mercer has been temporarily reassigned pending investigation." "I need space," I replied. Understood. Nothing else. The next morning, she called. I read the messages. I was packing books. Sophie was at school. Okay. He was tracking our counseling appointments. Yes. He told Captain Lewis that your relocation was a threat to group stability. I didn't know that. He drafted talking points for me in case the wing commander asked about our marriage. That actually surprised me. What? Claire laughed once. It sounded broken. He had an entire document, recommended command messaging. I sat down. What did it say? That we were experiencing temporary family stress caused by competing career demands. I said nothing. Claire continued, he wrote that your decision-making was emotionally reactive. I almost smiled. That sounds like Ryan. I didn't ask him to do any of it. I believe you. The silence on the line changed. You do? Yes. Then why does it sound like you still blame me? Because you didn't ask him to do it.
But you built the conditions that let him think he should. Her breathing slowed. Ethan, you let him speak about me like I was a problem to manage. I didn't know. You knew enough. I didn't know this.
No, but you knew he screened messages. You knew he inserted himself into our schedule.
You knew he came to our house. You knew he tried to influence Sophie's transfer.
Her voice cracked.
I thought he was overprotective of your command, of me. Same thing to him.
Claire was quiet, then she said something I had waited years to hear.
You were right. I closed my eyes, it should have felt satisfying, it did not. I wish I hadn't been. So do I. She drew a shaky breath.
I removed him from my staff permanently.
Good. I withdrew his promotion recommendation. That's between you and the investigation. I thought you'd want to know. I do. Can we start over?
There it was, the question I had imagined during every lonely dinner, every cancelled weekend, every time I watched Claire's headlights disappear while Ryan sat in the passenger seat.
But when it finally came, I no longer wanted what I had once wanted.
Claire, fixing Ryan doesn't fix us.
I know. Do you? I'll go to counseling.
You should.
I'll protect family time. You should. I'll take leave. You should.
Her voice sharpened.
Stop saying it like none of it matters. It matters. Then give me a chance. I gave you years. You never said you were at the edge.
I stared at the half-packed box in front of me.
That's not true. I didn't understand. That's different.
She started crying quietly, I could hear her trying not to.
I thought you would always be here. I leaned back. I know. I thought we were stronger than this. I thought so too. I thought you understood me. I did. Then how can you leave?
The question was sincere, that made it harder.
Because understanding why someone hurts you does not require staying where they keep hurting you.
She said nothing. I continued packing for several seconds. All I heard was the sound of tape pulling from the roll.
Then Claire whispered, "Is there anything I can do? Be Sophie's mother. What about being your wife?" I stopped. I don't know how to be your husband anymore.
The words hurt both of us.
She ended the call.
The investigation continued. Ryan was not criminally charged. Nothing he had done rose to that level, but military careers can be damaged without courtroom drama. He received a formal administrative reprimand for unauthorized use of command office authority, improper involvement in a commander's personal family matters, and failure to maintain professional boundaries. His promotion recommendation was withdrawn, and he was reassigned away from the group while higher headquarters reviewed his suitability for future command track positions. Claire also faced scrutiny. That part mattered. She had not ordered Ryan's misconduct, but she had failed to maintain proper boundaries and had allowed excessive delegation of administrative access. Her superiors formally reviewed her command practices. She retained her rank and was not publicly humiliated. Nobody tore insignia from her uniform. Reality is rarely theatrical. She received a written counseling memorandum and temporarily lost certain discretionary administrative authorities while the group corrected access procedures.
Her next command recommendation was delayed pending evaluation.
For Claire, that consequence was enormous, not because it ended her career, but because for the first time, the institution she had prioritized over everything told her that being indispensable was not the same as leading.
Well, I heard that from Claire herself.
She came home one evening carrying the memorandum. Sophie was upstairs. I was assembling moving boxes.
Claire set the document on the table. You were right about something else. I kept folding cardboard. What?
I confused being needed with being effective. I looked at her. She seemed exhausted, not physically, stripped down. The uniform was still perfect, but Claire no longer looked protected by it. The wing commander asked why Ryan had so much access.
What did you say? That he was efficient. I waited.
He asked why efficiency required him to know my marriage counseling schedule.
I said nothing. Claire gave a bitter laugh. I didn't have an answer. She sat. He asked how many tasks I let him create before I started mistaking his urgency for my responsibility. That sounded like a good commander.
Claire stared at her hands.
I thought he made my life easier.
He did, at first, probably.
He knew exactly what I wanted to hear. What was that? That everything depended on me.
I stopped working. Claire looked at me.
I liked it. That confession mattered more than any apology. He made every problem sound like something only I could fix. I knew better professionally, I teach delegation. She laughed without humor. But every time he called, I felt important. I nodded. And when I came home, her eyes filled. You needed me differently. Yes. You needed me to be present. Yes.
Which felt less urgent.
I looked away. Yes.
She covered her mouth for a moment. I thought she might collapse. Instead, she breathed through it.
I made Sophie feel less important because she wasn't on fire.
I had never heard it phrased that way. I sat across from her. Claire wiped her eyes.
I don't know how I became this person. Slowly. She nodded. Did you stop loving me slowly too? I considered lying. No.
Her face changed.
I still love you. Then why are you leaving? Because I finally love myself enough to stop using love as an excuse.
She looked down. That sentence sounded dramatic after I said it, but it was true.
I had spent years measuring commitment by endurance. How much could I carry? How many times could I understand? How flexible could I be?
I had never asked whether staying was making me smaller. Claire reached toward my hand, then stopped before touching me.
Are you still filing for separation? Yes. Even after Ryan is gone? Yes. Even after the investigation? Yes. Even if I change? I looked at her.
I hope you do, for you, for yourself, for Sophie.
And maybe someday. I shook my head. No promises.
Her face crumpled. I hated hurting her, but that did not mean the answer should change.
The next 2 weeks were strangely peaceful.
Once Claire realized arguments would not reverse my decision, she stopped trying to win them. We worked on logistics, we met with a family attorney, we updated Sophie's care plan. Claire agreed to the Colorado relocation while the separation proceeded, provided she received scheduled video calls, school break parenting time, and reasonable travel access. I agreed immediately. I never wanted to erase her from Sophie's life. That distinction became important later when people on base began whispering. Some believed I was punishing Claire, others thought I was taking Sophie to gain leverage in the separation. I refused to respond publicly. The signed care agreement spoke for itself. So did the school records, so did the attorney's filings. Claire surprised me by correcting the rumors herself at a family readiness meeting. According to the official minutes later provided to both of us, she stated, "My husband is relocating our daughter under a lawful family agreement that I signed and have reaffirmed.
Any suggestion that he has acted improperly is false."
When she told me, I said, "Thank you."
She looked almost angry. Don't thank me for doing what I should have done from the beginning.
That was another sign she was changing, not enough to save us, enough to matter.
Then came the relocation notice.
I delivered the envelope through Ryan's former office structure, now supervised by Claire's new executive officer, Captain Naomi Park. Naomi was meticulous. She signed the receipt and sent the electronic acknowledgement. Claire was in back-to-back meetings that day. The paper never reached her desk, not because Naomi hid it, but because Claire's temporary staff transition was chaos.
The acknowledgement sat in the administrative queue. I assumed Claire had seen it, and Claire assumed I was still considering the relocation date. We were both wrong. That misunderstanding would have been manageable under normal circumstances, but the morning we left,
Lieutenant Park called Claire while Sophie and I were already going through flight line security.
I learned the sequence later from the official incident report. In Claire's own statement, Naomi mentioned that Sophie's school withdrawal had been finalized. Claire stopped the conversation. "What withdrawal?"
Naomi explained. Claire called the house, no answer. She called me 12 times, my phone was in a security tray.
She called family services, their line was busy.
Then she called the operations desk. A sergeant told her a government-authorized family transport had 2 seats assigned under my name.
That was when panic took over.
Claire drove from headquarters toward the flight line. At the restricted gate, security personnel challenged her. She identified herself as group commander and stated she needed immediate access due to a family emergency.
The guard opened the gate. That decision was later reviewed. Claire drove onto the movement area.
She did not intend to endanger the aircraft, I believe that, but intent does not change the fact that she put a vehicle near an active taxi route. The tower stopped movement. Security responded, and Claire stood in front of the plane containing the 2 people she had assumed would always wait for her.
"You two cannot leave me."
Those words became part of the radio recording.
I heard them again 3 weeks later during a formal administrative review.
Claire sat across the room in service uniform. I sat beside my attorney.
The hearing was not about our marriage, it concerned unauthorized flight line entry, misuse of access privileges, and whether Claire's actions constituted conduct unbecoming of her command responsibilities.
The investigating officer played the recording. Claire's voice filled the room. "You two cannot leave me."
Then silence.
The officer stopped playback.
"Colonel Bennett, what did you mean?" Claire looked straight ahead. "I meant exactly what I said."
Her counsel shifted slightly. Claire continued, "I believed my husband was taking our daughter away without informing me."
"I was wrong." The officer asked, "Were you aware of the approved relocation?" "No."
"Had your office received notice?"
"Yes." "Was that failure Mr. Bennett's responsibility?"
"No." "Did you have legal authority to stop the flight?"
"No."
"Did you use your rank to gain access to the restricted area?"
Claire hesitated. "Yes."
"Why?"
"Because I panicked."
The officer studied her.
"Colonel, officers are expected to exercise judgment under stress." "I know."
"Was there a safety risk?"
"Yes."
"Did you understand that at the time?"
"I understood the abstract risk.
I did not weigh it properly."
"Why not?"
Claire finally looked at me. "Because the room was official." She returned her eyes to the officer. "Because I had spent years assuming my family would absorb the consequences of my decisions. When I discovered they had made a decision without waiting for me, I reacted as though I had been wronged rather than recognizing that I had already been given notice."
No one moved.
The officer asked, "Are you saying your marital circumstances affected your judgment?"
"Yes."
Her attorney whispered something. Claire shook her head.
"I am not offering that as an excuse."
The officer looked toward me.
"Mr. Bennett, did Colonel Bennett threaten you?"
"No."
"Did she attempt to physically remove your daughter?"
"No."
"Did she order the aircraft detained after security intervened?"
"No."
"Did she ask you to cancel the relocation?"
"Yes."
"What did you say?"
"No."
The officer nodded.
"Did you feel free to refuse?"
I thought carefully at that point. Yes, at that point.
For much of our marriage, Colonel Bennett's rank and command responsibilities shaped our family decisions, not through explicit orders, through expectation.
Claire lowered her eyes.
The officer asked,
"Did she ever threaten military consequences if you failed to comply with family demands?"
"No."
"Did she interfere with your employment?"
"No."
"Did she attempt to prevent your relocation through official action?" "Not knowingly."
"Based on the evidence I've seen, I could have made her look worse. I did not."
Truth was enough. The hearing concluded after several hours. Claire received formal administrative action. She was relieved of group command, not removed from the military, not stripped of rank.
She was reassigned to a non-command staff position while leadership reviewed her future command eligibility. The official findings cited impaired judgment, misuse of installation access, and creation of an unnecessary flight safety disruption.
Her prior command boundary issues involving Ryan were considered aggravating factors.
When the decision was announced, Claire stood perfectly still. The career she had placed ahead of everything had finally imposed a consequence she could not explain away as temporary.
I felt no satisfaction. That surprised some people. My attorney asked me afterward, "Do you feel vindicated?"
"No."
"What do you feel?"
"Tired." Claire found me outside the building. She had removed her cap for once. Nobody waited beside her, no aide, no staff, no driver, just Claire.
"Ethan." I stopped. "They relieved me." "I heard. I'll probably never command again."
"I'm sorry." She stared at me.
"You mean that?"
"Yes."
"I thought you'd be glad."
"Why?" "Because command took everything from us."
"No." I shook my head. "Your choices did."
She closed her eyes.
"I know." We stood in silence.
Then she said, "Would you have stayed if I'd learned sooner?" I could have given her comfort, maybe if Ryan had been removed 6 months earlier, maybe if counseling had started years ago, maybe if Claire had come to Sophie's appointment, maybe if I had stopped saying everything was fine.
But imaginary lives are easy because nobody has to actually live them. "I don't know," I said. She nodded.
"Fair.
I hope you keep going."
She gave me a tired smile.
"Without command? You're still an officer, for now."
"You're still Sophie's mother." Her eyes filled.
"That one matters more."
"Good." She looked at me for a long moment.
"I finally understand why you left." I waited.
"You didn't leave because I chose Ryan, not exactly."
You left because I kept choosing a version of myself that had room for everyone except the people who didn't need to salute me. I swallowed. That's close. Claire looked down at the pavement. I wish you'd hate me. No, you don't. It would be easier. For who? She almost laughed. For me, probably. She wiped beneath one eye. When are you going back to Colorado? Tomorrow. Can I have dinner with Sophie tonight? Of course. And you? I hesitated. Yes. It was our last dinner as a family living in the same city. Nothing dramatic happened, that was what made it painful. Sophie ordered macaroni and cheese, Claire stole one of my fries out of habit, then froze when she realized what she had done. I laughed, she laughed too. For 2 minutes, we were ourselves again. Then Sophie asked, Mom, are you coming to Colorado? Claire looked at me. Not to live there, sweetheart. Why? Claire did not make me answer. Because your dad and I aren't going to be married the same way anymore. Sophie frowned. Are you divorced? Not yet. Do you still love Dad? Claire's eyes moved to me. Yes. Sophie turned. Dad, do you love Mom? I could have lied to simplify things, no would have made the separation easier for a child to understand. Instead, I said, yes. Sophie looked completely confused. Then why can't we all live together? Claire's face tightened. I reached across the table. Because sometimes loving someone and living well with them are different things. Sophie considered that. That's dumb. Claire laughed through tears. Yeah, I smiled. It really is. Sophie ate another bite. Can Mom still come to my birthday? Yes, I said. Claire nodded quickly. I'll be there. Sophie pointed her fork at her. You said that last time. The sentence silenced the table. Claire did not defend herself, she did not say work had interfered. She did not say she would make it up. She looked at Sophie and answered, I did, and I wasn't there. You have a reason not to believe me. Sophie stared at her. Claire continued, I'll have to prove it. That was one of the first apologies Sophie trusted. Our separation became final 8 months later. The process was quieter than people expect when they hear the word divorce. There was no courtroom battle over Sophie, no fight over money. Claire and I divided assets through mediation. I kept the Colorado house I purchased after relocating. She kept the base area property after refinancing it into her name. Retirement benefits were divided according to law. We created a parenting schedule centered on Sophie's school calendar. The attorney asked whether I wanted restrictions on Claire's contact due to the Flightline incident. No. You're certain? Yes. That incident is documented. I know. Could become relevant if conflict develops. I understand. Then why not preserve leverage? I looked at him. Because my daughter is not leverage. He nodded. We never discussed it again. My new life was not glamorous, that mattered too. I did not move to Colorado and become a billionaire. Nobody handed me a secret rank. No general saluted me in front of Claire. I went to work. I led the fleet integrity modernization team. My days involved reliability models, maintenance data, design reviews, testing failures, procurement arguments, and long conversations with mechanics who knew things no software ever would. I loved it, not because it made me powerful, but because it was mine. For the first time in years, I did not check Claire's schedule before accepting travel. I did not ask whether a deadline would conflict with an exercise. I arranged Sophie's care when I needed to travel, like every other parent. Sometimes my mother helped, sometimes another parent from school, sometimes Claire flew in. The first time Claire came to Colorado for Sophie's birthday, she arrived 2 days early. Sophie stared at her in the airport. Why are you early? Claire smiled. Because I wasn't going to be late. She had requested leave 3 months in advance. When her office tried to move a meeting onto the same day, she declined. I knew because she told me later, not proudly, almost quietly. I said no. How did that feel? Terrifying. I laughed. So nobody died? Apparently not. She looked at me. I used to think every problem would become a disaster if I wasn't there. And now I know some problems become disasters because I am. That was darker than I expected. Claire, I'm working on it. She was therapy, professional mentorship, a staff role focused on training and safety oversight. She became good at it eventually, according to mutual friends, better than she had been as a commander. She learned to delegate without making subordinates dependent. She took leave. She shut off her phone during Sophie's school events.
She became the mother Sophie had always hoped she would be. I was glad, but that did not make me want her back. People struggle with that. They assume if someone changes, reconciliation becomes morally superior, as though improvement creates a debt. It doesn't. Claire deserved the chance to become better. I deserved the right not to return to the place where I had been hurt. Both could be true. Ryan left active service the following year. I learned through the final investigation notice that the reprimand remained in his file and his promotion was not restored. He transferred into a civilian defense logistics company. We never spoke again. I did not need him ruined, I needed him removed from my life. 2 years after the runway incident, I returned to the old base for a fleet safety conference. My team had completed deployment of our diagnostic platform across 3 transport wings. Aircraft A-12, the plane whose actuator problem helped launch my Colorado opportunity, sat on display near the maintenance hangar after completing another operational cycle. Nolan stood beside me. Feel strange? A little. You regret leaving? No. He nodded as though he had expected that. We walked toward the conference building. A formation of officers crossed the pavement, and one of them was Claire. She saw me, we both stopped. She wore lieutenant colonel insignia that surprised me, not because she had been demoted, she had not. Claire had voluntarily accepted an administrative reduction connected to a restructuring path after losing command eligibility. Later, she rebuilt. Promotion back to colonel was possible someday, but no longer guaranteed. Years earlier, that would have destroyed her. Now she looked steady. Hey, she said. Hey. Nolan looked between us. I'll see you inside. He left. Claire glanced at the conference badge around my neck. Program Director, temporary. She smiled. You always say that. I looked at her uniform. Training Command Safety Culture Office. That's ironic. Painfully. We both laughed, then silence settled, not hostile, just full. How's Sophie? She asked. You talked to her this morning. I know, I wanted to hear your version. Excited about soccer. Terrible at cleaning her room. She gets that from you. Absolutely false. Claire smiled, then her expression softened. I heard your system reduced unscheduled actuator removals by 30%. 27. Still correcting people? Still exaggerating numbers. Occupational habit. A group of junior officers passed us, they greeted Claire, and she returned the greeting. After they moved on, she said, I haven't been back near that runway since. I knew which one she meant. Why? Didn't trust the memory. That's a lot of pavement to avoid. She looked toward the distant flight line. I remember standing there thinking that if I could stop the plane, I could stop everything. I said nothing. She continued, I had spent my entire career solving problems through action: order the gate open, stop the aircraft, get you off the plane, make you listen, fix the family. Sounds like you. It did. And now I know some things can't be commanded back into place. Her eyes held mine. I used to hate you for teaching me that. I didn't teach you, you did. I left. Exactly. A jet passed overhead, we waited for the noise to fade. Claire said, I loved you. I know. Part of me still does. I know. I don't say that because I expect anything. Good. She smiled faintly. You haven't changed that much. I hope I have. You have. She looked toward the conference building. I should go. Me too. She took 2 steps, then turned. Ethan, thank you for not taking Sophie away from me. I frowned. I took her to Colorado. You know what I mean. I did. I had never turned our daughter into punishment, never told Sophie her mother had chosen another officer over her. Never used Claire's discipline record to make her look unsafe, never demanded that Sophie share my anger. Claire had lost a marriage, I had not required her to lose motherhood too. You did the work, I said. So did you. She nodded. Then we walked in opposite directions. That evening, Sophie called while I was at the hotel. Mom said she saw you. She did. Was it weird? Very. She laughed. Did you fight? No. Did she cry? No. Did you cry? Absolutely not. Dad. Maybe my eyes were attacked by atmospheric particles. She laughed harder. Then she said, Mom says you're giving a speech tomorrow, a technical briefing. Same thing. Not remotely. Is she going? I don't know. Claire did attend, she sat near the back.
My presentation had nothing to do with our marriage, our divorce, or the investigation.
It was about failure prediction in high-cycle aircraft components, 45 minutes of pure work. I spoke about my work, not the flexible job I fit around Claire's command, not the project I delayed because somebody else needed me, but the career I had finally allowed to occupy its proper place in my life. Afterward, officers gathered around with questions. Nolan slapped my shoulder. A maintenance chief argued with one of my assumptions. I enjoyed that argument more than I should have. When the room emptied, Claire was gone. She left no note, no dramatic message, no attempt to reopen anything that felt like another kind of progress. On my flight home, I looked out the window as the aircraft taxied. For a moment, I remembered the other plane, Claire's vehicle on the runway, security lights, her voice on the frequency, "You two cannot leave me." At the time, I thought the sentence was about possession. Later, I understood it was about fear. Claire had not realized how much she could lose until laws started moving without her permission. But fear did not give her the right to stop the aircraft, love did not give her the right to stop my life. And marriage did not require me to keep standing still so she would never feel left behind. The plane accelerated, nothing blocked the runway. My phone vibrated before we lifted off. A message from Sophie. "Don't forget you promised pancake Saturday." I smiled. Then another message arrived. "Claire, Sophie says your flight is tonight. Safe travels." I typed back, "Thanks." That was all, no anger, no longing, no unfinished argument hidden between the words. The aircraft climbed through the clouds. For years, I had measured commitment by how much of myself I could surrender without leaving. I know better now. Some promises are worth keeping, some relationships are worth grieving. And sometimes the most important thing a man can do for himself and his child is recognize the moment when staying is no longer loyalty, clear the runway, and go.